Hi everybody, welcome to Watercolor Wednesday at Dandelion Cottage. I'm Leslie Watkins, and today we're going to be painting roses. How are you? So, as you can see behind me here, I've got quite the assortment. There are some peonies mixed in, and I've got some alchemia as filler, and then I've got an assortment of little roses here, which I will try to identify the cultivars for you in just a minute. But even though we are in full tilt peony season, I want to squeeze some of the roses in because I don't know for how much longer they're going to be blooming. It's been so hot here and dry, and I don't know. It's not a typical June, so I thought that before I lose my opportunity, I should jump on it. So let's get started. So here is a rose, one of my most favorites. This is a very, very fragrant rose, and it's named for Gertrude Jekyll, who was the English garden designer. And so you can imagine that the rose would have to be pretty spectacular to be named after Gertrude. And then I've got some of these others. So this big white one is called Winchester Cathedral, and that's a David Austin rose. This one is also a David Austin rose, and I just love these. These are called the Crocus Rose. This one, which is looking a little bit scrumply, I think is called the Scepter Isle. And then these gorgeous roses are the William Baffin, which is a great big vigorous climbing rose. Oh, and we have a guest. Somebody's living in there. Well, we'll just leave him be. So anyway, this is a selection of some of the roses that grow here at Dandelion Cottage. These are roses that are pretty tough. They're pretty hardy. They are surviving in my zone 4/5 garden. I'm at a fairly high altitude, so it's a little bit colder here than it is in surrounding areas. And these roses are doing okay. They're holding their own with not a lot of care, a bit of neglect, but at this time of year they look just beautiful. So here's one more close-up. And then I have to decide which one I'm going to paint. And I think it's I'll tell you, it's a really tough decision. But I think this one, whoops, get over here. There we go. So I think this is the one that I'll be working from today. Isn't that beautiful? What an inspiration. Okay. This is not going to be a long video. Oh, and I don't know, did I tell you how fragrant this is? It is so fragrant. It's filling my whole work area with this most wonderful scent. the beautiful Gertrude Jekyll. Okay, so here is our specimen, and let me put that where I can see it and get it in some good light. I'm working from natural light today in my Northlight studio. There we go. Put that right there. I'll put Gertrude over here so I can smell her while I'm working. And I just have a little piece of watercolor paper. This is hot press watercolor paper. I'm only going to be working with 3 colors today, red, yellow, and blue. And if you'd like to learn more about my color palette, hold on just a second. If you'd like to learn more about my materials list and my color palette and some of the classes I have coming up for watercolor, please subscribe to notes at dandelioncottagedesign.com, and I go into much more detail than I can in this short little time. Okay, so number 2 pencil. I think we'll have it going this way. So I'm just going to give it kind of a sweep across the page here. And I'm just noting where the center of my rose is and the direction that the petals are emerging from there. Situating the leaves. I'm leaving a little area here for a sentiment. This is going to be a card that I'm going to be using to send to somebody. Okay, and I'm going to work on dry paper today, and I'm just taking a little very, very pale mixture of the yellow with a tiny bit of red in there. Let me get you closer. There you go. Okay, so I'm just painting very lightly. And now I'm taking a kind of a yellow-green mixture. Just identifying the location of some of these leaves. Get my stem established. Okay, so that's all. So just a little fast underpainting. All right, very, very pale. Nothing to it. And now as I continue to refine it, I will also work on my drawing, so I can pay a little closer attention to some of the shapes of these leaves. And I also edited out a few of the leaves. I didn't feel that I needed quite so many in this picture. And so I'm thinking about composition and the overall design as I work. And this leaf is in shadow, so it's a little bit darker than the others. And then the tip of it, as it comes down, it's getting a little bit of transmitted light coming through it. So I'm going to add a little more yellow at the bottom. And as I paint these leaves that are close to the petals, I'm careful to get the shape of the petal as I go near it. And this gets a little warmer in tone as it comes away from that flower. And I can use the point of my brush and just kind of indicate the little serrated edge that the rose leaves have. Do a little bit of that over here. There we go. Now I'm just mixing, I'm mixing up a little puddle of medium green. So I'm taking my blue and my palette, I'll show you my palette real quick. I just have the red, yellow, and blue on this white ceramic tray. And you can see I'm letting the colors all flow together. And there's my greens. And that enables me to adjust the tone accordingly to what I want, whether I want a strong green, a muted green, a warm green, a cool green. So these are all different things that you have to think about that I will go much more into detail in my watercolor course, which I will be producing shortly. So stay tuned for that. And again, if any of this is interesting to you and you'd like to learn more, just go to my website at dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to notes, and then you and I will be able to communicate with one another. Otherwise, I can't let you know what I have coming up. So please do that, and I will be very careful with your information. Okay, so back to these leaves. And I'm just building up my middle tones now, paying attention to the characteristics of the shape of the leaves, the edges. I'm also leaving a little spot for the vein. I have some transmitted light here that is illuminating the leaves in such a way that it kind of spotlights the vein. So I want to catch some of that. I have a paper towel handy just to help control the amount of water I have on the brush. And my stem has a bit of a red tinge to it, so I've got a little drop of red in this mixture here. And then as it comes down through here, it gets more green and more yellow-green. So you want to pay attention to the color changes. And then this is my kind of my star leaf, the main actor here. So I'm just mixing up a little more green. And I'm letting those different colors of green kind of swirl around and do their own thing. There we go. And then this leaf is just sort of tucking in underneath there with this petal poking out over the top. And this leaf is the more distant leaf going back into the picture, so I'm just going to cool that down a little bit, gray it down, and let that sort of go off. Okay, so while those areas have a chance to dry a little bit and set up, I'm going to get back to our beautiful rose. Sometimes it's hard to pick them because you just want them to stay forever. But now I'm taking a slightly darker mixture than what I used before, and there are some places actually where I see a lot of yellow, so I want to get that established. So a lot of yellow coming through here where this light is passing through the petals and just making it look all warm and glowy. Let's get that in there. And then I just want to establish some of my middle tones. There are, there's so many colors in these beautiful roses. So I'm mixing up a very, very super pale, kind of a blue-violet, and I'm really watering that down. Let's just test that. We'll test it over here. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about right there. Okay. And now I'm just going to take that and soften the edge and begin to model that petal going back into space there. And a little of the same here. And I'm just slowly building up this form. So for those of you that might be a little bit heavy-handed with the paint, this is your chance to exercise your light-handedness. Okay, so just take your time. You know, there's lots of times when I feel like doing a quick, spontaneous, splashy picture, and they're a lot of fun to do. Those beautiful, loose, colorful paintings, working wet and wet, and I like those just as well. But every once in a while, you know, you have a magnificent specimen like this, and you just want to try to do it a little justice and capture its portrait. So I think you can see how that's developing. It's starting to look like a rose. Look like, and more specifically, it's starting to look like this rose, which is what we're after. And I'm taking a slightly darker green mixture now, just to put some of the detail in a couple of these leaves. And I'm being selective. I'm not doing it same to every one. I'm not going for a photographic image, but a nice poetic impression. Okay, camera doesn't always capture that. Someone once said to my great instructor, why don't you just use a camera? And he said, well, then I wouldn't have any fun. You know, painting is a great pleasure. And scientific studies have shown that when you take the time to sit down and do some careful sketching or painting, that it actually releases the same chemicals in your brain as does meditation. So it's very therapeutic, and I urge you all to do it if it's something that you've been thinking about. You won't regret it. You know, and as you see, as I'm working here, I'm just using with 3 colors. So you do not have to buy a ton of equipment to get going. In fact, you could start with just 1 tube of paint and build up your collection as you go along. You know, maybe something like a burnt umber would be nice, and look at some of Rembrandt's ink drawings that he did for inspiration of what you can do with just 1 color. Okay, so I think we're getting pretty close to winding this up. I'm just going to put a couple of touches in the dark center of my flower. So that's still a little wet, so that's all right. I can take advantage of that and let the color run. I may have to put this aside for a little while and let it dry before I get back and put those careful little details. So while that is drying, why don't we get our card base ready? I have a I have an ink pad here and a block. I have a very vanilla card base. I think we got to get you out further here. There we go. Okay. And this color is called Melon Mambo. And I have the corresponding ink that matches just so. And I've got this stamp set that's called Tasteful Touches. And I like this sentiment here, which is just saying hello. So, I haven't used this set yet. I'm just peeling away the backing. And I'm going to get my stamp pad here. And just test this out. Alright, let me get that straight on there so I know which way I'm going. There we go. Okay. So now I'm taking my paper. I'm just going to place that right in there. Okay. And I'm going to take my liquid glue, put a little bit of glue on the back here. You know, and in these days when we're not able to see all the people that we'd like to see with the pandemic going on, this is a very nice way to let somebody know that you miss them and that you're thinking of them. And I guarantee you, when they go to their mailbox and find a handmade card with a beautiful painting from you waiting for them, that they are going to be very, very happy to have that. So this is a great way to stay in touch with folks. Okay, and now I'm just going to see if I can get that center. There we go. So there you have it. That's my little card for today. Thank you so much for joining me. See if we can get our rose in here. There we go. Okay, so thank you very much. If you'd like to learn more about these watercolor classes that I offer each month online, go to dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to Notes, and I will be happy to send you my newsletter on the first of the month and let you know all the classes that I have coming up. So have a wonderful day, stay well, and stay creative.